and a big warm welcome if you're new here. My name is Hannah from Handmade Designs and I've been running my business since 2013. It initially started as a product-based business and has evolved into helping other creatives and artists bring their product to market. Now today is a very special podcast episode because I have got the wonderfully, creatively talented Ellis Woolley. She is an illustrator that specialises in woodland illustrations with animals. So without further ado, let's head straight into the podcast. Hello and a big warm welcome. I have got a very important question to ask you, which I mentioned on my first podcast. So I don't know if you've listened, but I followed the same format and the same questions. So the biggest and most important question, if we were doing a co-working session, what drinks and what snacks are you bringing?
Oh, wow. Coffee. I know you don't like coffee,
Yes.
though. So I'd make you a pot of tea, obviously.
Oh, thank you.
And probably some donuts, actually, and some hot cross buns, too.
Oh, hot cross buns.
Depends on the season, actually, doesn't it? Depends on the season.
I know, but now they bring everything out a little bit early. It's like, you know, when a hot cross bun starts appearing in February.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm all here for it. Okay, So a lot of my audience, they may or may not know you already. Can you explain a little bit about yourself, your business, your brand, what it is that you do?
I'm not very good at this, but I will try my best. So my name's Ellis. I am a UK-based illustrator and I create woodland and whimsical artwork and designs, and I apply them to giftware, stationery, homeware, and I work from my home studio, my little shoebox here. That's me.
Amazing. Every time that I have something, I'm like, is that your friend that makes those little pins and stuff? I'm like, yes.
I've got some here on my table, actually. Like,
show me.
I've been doing, trying to do like the old TikTok, and just they're all here. Yeah.
Did I notice you'd done a keychain?
Yes. Where are they? Best friend, I'm going to have to ask you to move. Come here. Here are my keychains. These are my newest ones. Can't really see very well on my camera. The wings are glittery. He's got a little dangly star, and I'm just obsessed. So cute. I'm so happy with them. Yeah, I get so much joy out of making everything.
I think for me, the biggest part of what I enjoy is, like, you know, when you've got an idea and you're creating it as a sketch, but nothing compares to that feeling. You know, when it's a physical product and it arrives and you're like, I've actually made that.
It's actually quite nerve-wracking in the beginning, even now, like when you send not just your design but your money to somebody that is then entrusted to make your product. It's like, it's so scary getting the first sort of proofs back and then the finished product. It's weird. Is
that what I envisioned? Is it?
Yeah. It's weird seeing the illustration and then the finished product. It's wild. It never gets boring.
That's the exciting part, to be fair. I think for me, with the business model that I did, there was a lot of trial and error. So there wasn't that like big surprise element. So I never really felt the adrenaline of when something was made. For me, it was more, you know, when you'd see that product, say if I was designing and making a cake topper, but you'd see it at someone's wedding photo and you're like, I actually did that.
That's me.
I actually did that.
That must be crazy though, doing weddings, because it's such a big part of somebody's like life. It's photos they're always going to look back on.
Yeah, and I feel like if I thought too much about it, you know, and you get a little bit too just thought.
This person's grandchildren are going to look at this cake topper. What will they think?
Yeah. So when did you start your business?
Oh my goodness. 2017. So I quit my day job, as I think people call it. And I just went for it. I had no plan. I had no structure. Not like yourself. I just learned as I went.
Well, that was going to be one of the further questions, was about art. Was that something that you was considering, or was it just like a butterfly effect where one thing's led to another and decisions and then just going for it in your business?
I've always been creative. I like I like to draw, I always have done. But then my other passion is animals. So for a long time, I wanted to be a vet, and I just didn't believe I was clever enough. So I sort of stopped pursuing that, and I went to uni to do art and design at Foundation. We've recently had a conversation about this, actually.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm repeating myself, but we'll go with it. And I didn't like it. I dropped out. I didn't carry on to the degree because I wasn't enjoying it. I hated it so much. And it was just a lot of debt to get into as well that I thought if my heart's not truly in it, if I'm not enjoying it, it just didn't feel right. So I left, and then I went and got a job in animals. So I've kind of done like a big circle.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually I loved my job. I loved it so much, but it was very corporate, and I didn't gel with that. It just didn't feel right. I wanted to build something myself and have more control over my days and my work day, what that looked like for me. So yeah, eventually I just left with no plan. I just did it.
And I think back when we started, or when we were doing foundation year, which for me would have been 2010, 2011, and then I kind of started my business 2013, there wasn't really this YouTube space or the idea when I was doing my foundation and A-levels. So you never really saw people just have a go at it and pave their own way.
Yeah,
the route
exactly.
to art and business looked very educational. You went and got your degree, and then you worked for someone doing that said degree, essentially. So it was kind of just I think it has always been that, like, making it up as you go along, and new technologies and new ways of marketing businesses have come in, and that means it's just been a case of constantly evolving. And I think that's why I look back at when I was doing thinking about art as a business, and I couldn't actually picture what that meant. And because the route to business because I didn't want to go to university, it also meant, like, is that just the end of me in art? Do I just actually just do it for fun?
Yeah,
And I ended up doing I just did an apprenticeship in customer service, which was actually really below what the skill level. I think it was like a level 1, but because it was apprenticeship in graphic design, I just found it was a route to employment, and I could still be creative. But
no, I get that as well. Like, I thought I'd have to get a job being a graphic designer in another company, and I remember back in the early days I applied for jobs like, I don't know what the company's called, but it was something to do with greeting cards and Hallmark. And the office is in Corby somewhere, and I applied like twice, and I remember getting my first 2 rejection letters and just feeling like, I'm not good enough for this. I'm never going to be good enough for this. I'm never going to be able to work for somebody. And because there wasn't what there is now, like, there's so many ways of having that income stream. And it's still hard work, but yeah, I thought, there's no way I can do it on my own. I thought it would have to be like old school, when you go stick flyers in people's doors. This is me, service. I didn't think I could do it.
But it's funny how you just trust your gut instinct and go for it, I think, isn't it? And you're just following that fire from inside, which leads me on to, what does a typical day or week look for yourself? So for me, they are very different, and no 2 days are the same, but there's kind of a pattern to what I can kind of suggest. And I think I won't go into it too much, but like some of my audience know, because of being a mum, those hours are very restricted and my time is allocated. So typically for me, I work anywhere from about 9:15 till about 2:00. And anything that I can get extra on a night from like 7 onwards is just like bonus, but I can't plan on that. So I just wondered what that kind of looked like for you.
So I'm also a mum, as you know. I've got a 3-year-old son, and it wasn't until the start of this year that I got regular childcare. So he goes to nursery now 4 days a week, and up until that point, I struggled. It was a case of burning the midnight oil and just getting it done as and when I could. It was so stressful. Now he goes to nursery for me, so I don't work Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I might pack an order or two if they're here.
Yeah.
On a nursery day, my days, I go and do the nursery run, I get home about 10:15, but then I have to finish again at 2:15. So very similar hours to yourself. And same as you, really. There's kind of like a pattern that I go through. Like, obviously, I have an admin day or a social day, like where I'm filming for socials, creating content, packing orders, and also designing new things. But you'd be surprised at how little of like the time spent is put towards designing things. A lot of it is the behind the scenes everybody sees. So it's kind of, when you're filming a vlog, for example, it's hard to show people what you're doing because it's a lot of it's boring. There's not very much.
I think I'm struggling with that a little bit at the moment because I've had so much admin heavy and just logistics, and it's like the chicken and an egg. I can't do any of this without doing that. But also there is literally nothing to film or share or document about doing any of those aspects.
Yeah.
So it feels very much like I'm always hot and cold.
Yeah.
I don't think from an outside looking in, because I don't see that, you know, whenever I see your content. And
I don't think about you either. I always think, oh, she's just doing it all.
Yeah, but internally myself, it's just like, it always seems like it's all or nothing or one thing or the other, and actually it's not very balanced. But I'm trying to retrain how I think and how I actually think about all of that, and just realize actually when you take a step back and look at it from an outside perspective, it is happening, the wheels are turning, and it's all just part of the picture of running the business. But I think for myself, because of running the business before I was a mom, I had a lot of time. So I would spend some of the morning doing some tasks, some of the afternoon, doing another task. And actually there was a lot of time in the day. But now, because it's so crunched, I'm like, right, this has got to be dedicated to this. And actually, if I'm honest, I do think I work better than I did all those years ago.
I think I do too. It forces you to be more efficient.
Which doesn't help, because I feel a lot more tired because of it. And I'm conscious of that. And I'm trying to be off and take as much time off when I'm not as possible. But when it comes to work, it's like before I might have just chilled, done some scrolling, get some ideas, and I don't know, between 9 and whatever time in the day that I finished, it was a very, like, if I had that time now, I literally don't know what I'd do. It's just such a bizarre concept.
Like more mindful, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, completely.
It makes you a hell of a lot more efficient and mindful of what you're doing with that time that you're given, because the worst thing is getting to the end of your working day and feeling like you did nothing with it. Yeah, especially like pre childcare days, because like I used to have a day of work and then a day back with my son, and then I'd have a day of work and then a day back with my son. So I'd feel like there was a big chunk in between. So I felt like I couldn't, get things finished. If I started something on a Tuesday, I'd have to wait until the Thursday before I, resumed again. So it made me very aware of the time pockets and how to use them.
100%. I mean, I used to come in and I'd be so geared up and ready, and it was like my day for the week to be creative, get any orders done, and then the machines aren't working, they're not cooperating, the internet's down. And
I'm looking at you, cricket.
Yeah. It's a personal thing, honestly. I'm just... it felt like the universe was really trying to, test everything. And then I'll be like, right, what have you done today? And I'm like, absolutely nothing. And it'd really wind me up. And knowing that you've got to wait it honestly felt like, I know it was only a day and I'd go and enjoy that with my daughter at the time, but it felt like an eternity waiting for the next day and opportunity to get back into my business and working on it again. And just praying to the...
Sorry, I've just totally cut in front of you. But another thing is like those days where you don't get anything done, and you feel like bad enough as it is, and then depending on who you talk to, it sounds to them as if you don't want to do the motherhood side of things and you just want to work and you don't want to be a mum anymore. I've had that where people just
I've struggled with
totally
that a lot.
misunderstand, like, sorry, I'm just trying to earn some money to like support my family, and like they just come at it from an angle of you don't want to be a mum, and then you feel awful.
All you want to do is work. You're like,
All you want to do is work. And that's one of the comments over the last 3 years that I've just been like, they don't understand. Which I think is how we actually connected in the first place, because I was like, oh my God, finally.
I know, I just felt like I'm so alone. And then when I saw you open up, I mean, it's hard enough when you kind of, as a small business owner, I can genuinely spend all day and not see anyone. The most I can interact is with like the checkout lady at Asda or something. Like that is who I see. You know, and it's me, myself, and I.
But you know, when you like, I'm one of those people that if I go to someone at the checkout, I'm like, hi, how are you? And if they respond, I'm like, I hope you're having a nice day, and I will try and chat to them just to. It's human connection, isn't it? And I genuinely like want to make sure they're having a nice day, and if they've just had an awkward customer, I want to help turn that around. Like, not everybody's, you know, here to ruin your day. But then sometimes you get people that look at you like, don't talk to me.
No, just buy your bread and go, please.
I just want to be kind. Get your bread and get out of here.
So which part of your business do you least like the most doing, or what task?
Oh, I don't know, actually. I love it all, but there are elements of each thing that is... I guess I don't like artwork file setup. I like doing the designs, but then when it comes to like getting the manufacturer ready, I like doing admin. I like doing my accounts. I do my accounts myself. I like organising things. I love a stock taking day when I can, you know, do my inventories.
Get organised.
Get it all swift. But no, I think probably artwork setup files. And I never really thought about that before you just asked. So thank you for that. Because
for me, I always have this almost like a little bit of a build-up where I'm really anxious before I send the artwork off to the actual printers. And everything has to be proof-checked, double-checked, triple-checked, signed off. And I always feel, because this is completely like daft of me thinking about it, but because I didn't go to uni and no one taught me step by step how to set up a file or how it needs to be exported correctly, I always completely I have to Google how to export an Illustrator file for the printers, or, you know, whatever it is. And I send it off, and at the end of the day, the worst they can do is literally say, like, can you flatten the file, or can you send it as a XYZ instead, or put a 3mm bleed on? And it's a case of doing a 5-minute job, but it puts me in a place where I feel very, what's the right word for it? I don't know. Yeah, just a little bit like, oh, I can't do this. Because it's just, you know, and it's like, it's in your skill set, but not quite. And I've not been learned in being completely self-taught. You're just relying on good old Google, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Like, depending on the manufacturer, sometimes it sometimes pays to go for a little bit more of an expensive company, because the cheaper ones I find are all sort of computer and they're robots behind the scenes. So there's nobody there to actually check your artwork for you before it goes to the machines, like to be printed, for example.
Okay.
So, yeah, so
I didn't know that, to be fair.
I won't mention any brands because obviously I don't know if I'm allowed to. But yeah, sometimes there won't be a person behind, you know, that ordering process, and it will literally go straight from your emails to the company software, and it will just go straight through the machine. So not so much with handmade products, obviously, because things like this are handmade. I've noticed with the cheaper printing companies, if I've ever had a problem, they'll say, oh, sorry, nobody picked up on that because we don't have people behind the scenes. They don't get quality check. They just...
the stuff's just going from your uploaded artwork to the printer regardless.
Yeah, and you have to be careful with like returns policies and like guarantees and stuff like that, because sometimes they will just be like, that's not our problem. It was your artwork file. And if you don't know your artwork file, you can then be like, oh, it was my fault, when sometimes it wasn't.
Yeah.
You were in the right,
absolutely.
It's fine. It took me a long time to be like feel confident in my ability to be like, no, actually I know it was right.
Yeah. And I think for when it's literally coming out of your own money, and it's really not, it's not cheap. It can be like £70-80 easily down the drain, can't it?
Yeah.
Luckily, with a lot of what I do now, there is the human element and someone's doing it, but I don't know if that's why I feel sometimes a little bit nervous, because I'm like, oh, they're going to come back and tell me it's something needs amending. But I did it yesterday, and it's something, basically the shadows in Illustrator hadn't, I don't know, you have to compress the transparency layer. And I was like, well, you only learn, not necessarily from mistakes, but that's the only way you learn. Otherwise I wouldn't have known. And now I know, basically. So
Illustrator is all the software together there, isn't it? Just get away from me, Illustrator. I don't want to know you.
I open it on my computer and the little spinning wheel comes up, so I don't even think my computer likes me working in Illustrator.
Yes.
Honestly. What are you currently working on at the moment?
Well, I'll tell you.
Or is this like you can't share?
I got to the start of this year and I was like, everyone's there just like, oh, I've got so many plans, I've got so many projects, and I was like, I've got diddly squat, mate. I've got nothing. And then I just sort of told myself I'd enjoy the quiet, and I'd let the ideas come to me when they were ready.
Yeah.
And then eventually...
That's equally as important.
Yeah, and it's scary because it's January, and January is always a really slow slog. Like, things are quiet for everybody, and it's easy to feel like, when you're in your own echo chamber, to feel like, oh my god, everything's crumbling around me and everything's just going to fall to bits. But I've tried to embrace it, and then eventually I was like, this is going to be the year that I work on my picture book. So I've been sketching ideas for a picture book, and I have a character in mind. I'm currently working on my character and my story. I'm trying to learn about storyboarding. So I'm trying to do the whole, adult learning thing. And I don't know what I'm doing, but there's so many resources out there now that I was like, you haven't got an excuse, Ellis. Just do it.
Absolutely.
So in terms of products, and like last year I did 2 Kickstarters, and this year I'm just like, I don't know if I have it in me. Maybe later in the year, but no, right now I'm just like, this is where I am. How about you? Where are you at with everything?
I don't know why that threw me. So I am at a place where I am trying to do a qualification on an evening, and that is gearing up towards teaching in the adult section. So it's classes as teaching / training, and in order to do it, because potentially it'll be working with local authorities, it's a case of you have to have this qualification in place. So that's why I'm going to do it. But it's to basically help with people wanting to get their ideas off the ground. It's like makers making it to market, essentially. And our end goal is to encourage and empower particularly mums, unemployed, anyone in that section who is really passionate about their art skill, but actually they haven't got anyone backing them, or the confidence and the skills and the knowledge. And we're looking at creating courses and a structure to help them bring their skills to life in a product and gain the confidence to be able to stand there at a market stall and sell their product.
Yes,
but in order to get to that step, I've just got to do a whole lot of learning, tick box kind of jobs, just knowing how to support people with mental health and the sustainability and just things that we can put into practice. So it's taking what I've learned over the last 10 years, and I really wanted to try and work back in the community and work with people because, like I said earlier, I've spent a lot of time just being on my own. And actually, which you're quite aware, I'm quite a talkative and chatty person, and I like being around people. And I just feel like that element of my business has been missing, or I feel the call for it now. I was very goal driven when I was in my 20s, and I very much wanted to get my business off the ground, set myself targets, and I very much was like, just set myself to that task. And now that I'm 10 years older, is it 10 years? No, more than that.
Feel, do we?
No. But do the years count after 30? I'm really missing that element of community and working with people. So that's essentially what I'm going to do.
I'm very excited to see you do that.
Thank you. I'm really passionate about running small businesses, but I do think there's a really big gap between this very formal education and actually with very minimum resources and just a little bit of know-how and a lot of fire and a lot of passion, you can really create a business for yourself, whether that sustains you fully or if that's part-time, or maybe it's just to actually, like for me, I need to be creative in order to just feel fulfilled. It's part of what I need to do. And actually sometimes my business is just proportionally about that aspect.
Yeah, definitely. I'd never really looked at it from that perspective before. You know how you said there's a really harsh line between like proper like official education and then not knowing what you're doing. There needs to be something in the middle, something accessible for people like mums, like, you know, people who are working within the communities, potentially rehabilitation and stuff like that. Like finding stuff around working hours and other commitments is really hard. Sometimes people just can't dedicate that time and space to learning something new. So I think it's a really good idea.
And I think there's so many sources and things available, but a lot of the time the route in which people, how's the best way to put it? I know from a lot of stuff online, because there is actually so much access to it these days, it can, as wonderful as it is, it can feel very overwhelming.
Yeah, you don't know where to start, do you?
No, so it's just about coming back really down onto the community level, and working with local people. So yeah, that I'm really excited for it, to be fair, but I just know that also besides doing this, and like you're fully aware, it's like your business still has to turn over money, and I still need to make an income. So it's just trying to find pockets of time to make sure I can do all these things in order to build the bigger picture. But I ultimately, thank you. I ultimately need to find a way, in all honesty, to try and navigate working in the school holidays. And that's what I'm very conscious of, because the very thought of it, I just try not to think too much. I know that when it comes to it, I'll find a way. And I put my faith in that. But right now, I'm just the thought of it is just can be a little bit much.
Yeah, even though I'm dreading the summer holidays this year, because I know last year was such a struggle. And there's believing in yourself that you'll get it done somehow, but you also don't want to burn yourself out and be on the floor by the end of it. By the time like 100%. The autumn term starts, you're going to be like flagging. So yeah, I need to do exactly that as well. Figure out a way of.
And I think I always felt really guilty that there is a lot of mums that are just off with the children for all various different reasons, and I felt any time that I spent away, I felt the guilt, even if it was just one day a week. And like, I don't know if that ever gets easier. I don't know, but it's just something I'm trying to be a little bit kinder with myself about, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I get that. The guilt is so real.
Looking at your business, where do you feel you took the biggest leap of faith in yourself, or when you scaled up or scaled your skills or had to take a gamble on something?
I think probably when I started, and I know that might sound like, well, that was 8 years ago now. There must have been something a bit more significant since then, Ellis. But no, honestly, that's like
just the initial jump to.
Yeah, because I left my job because mentally I was not in a good place. I was giving so much of this, like, of myself to this job, and it was never enough. And like, my whole team was feeling it. We were all on the floor on our knees. We were all suffering. And it was a bit of a domino effect, really. Like, a couple left before me, and then I left, and then a whole load of people left. And it was very toxic as well, because I left, and then just word of mouth got back to me, and they were like, oh, everyone left because you left, Ellis, and like, the managers are blaming you. And it was just like, I wasn't in a very good place. So I thought about it. Actually scarred me about working for somebody else again. I was terrified. And if it wasn't for my husband just being like, you need to go for it, I don't think I'd have done it. So I do understand I'm in a very privileged and like fortunate position that, like, right at the start, my husband did support me. So I understand not everybody has, a person to do that for them. But it still was, jumping from a world of, I guess, nowhere secure really when we think about it, but a world of security and healthcare. Like, you get private healthcare and you get holidays, paid sick leave. I left it all behind for this world of uncertainty, but at the same time, it's the best thing I ever did, and I hope I get to do it for a really long time. But that leap and belief in myself, like, I've always said, you sink or you swim. That's like my mantra. And on the hard days, it's allowed to be a hard day. It's allowed to be a struggle. Yeah. But the important thing is that you try again the next day. You keep going and remember why you did it.
I absolutely love running a business, but I don't love every single day or every aspect that I'm in it, because the reality is it is difficult. And I think for me, the biggest part that I find hard is where to have those conversations. And sometimes you do feel like you are just steering that ship yourself.
Yeah, especially when you're in your own like little cardboard box room and there's nobody else here. Like, I know we both get visitors like popping in and out of our studio to say hello or bring a cup of tea or something, but it's not quite the same as bouncing ideas off each other and having someone to, share that excitement and enthusiasm with. Or if you do have a challenge that you've got to face, there's nobody else there to sort of, half the pressure or half the effort of solving it with, if you get what I mean. It's all like, it's you or nothing.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like you're trying to think of ideas, and I will be really certain on an idea, and sometimes you're like, I don't know, is that a good idea? Is that a bad idea? And you just have to kind of put out you put out like little feelers to get an idea for it. And then sometimes I'll speak to my husband and be like, what do you think about this? And because he's not very creatively minded, so he's more analytical and data, but when it comes to creative, he's like, what are you on about? I don't get it. Yeah. And I'm like, doesn't matter if you don't get it, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, see, my husband's very creative. He's also a freelancer and he paints miniature models for a living. He's out in his shed now doing the same thing. But when it comes to a product, like a giftware product, I'll make this and he'll be like, what's the point, Ellis? And then I'll be like, oh, my fox baby. Why wouldn't you want a fairy fox keychain on your house keys? Whereas he's like, he's very much a black and white person where he's like, no, I don't want any key rings. I want simplicity. I don't want anything getting in my way. Whereas I'm like, fox fairy on my keys. So yeah, sometimes I'll design something and they'll be like, well, what's it for, Ellis? And I'm like, it's going to bring joy.
It
I
brings
don't know
joy.
what it's for. Why do
I
we
love
wear
it, and I hope
pins? They
everyone
don't
else
do
does.
anything. They don't do anything. They just make me happy. That's enough,
Yeah,
though.
they
If
do.
it makes you happy,
Absolutely.
that's enough.
Absolutely. Do you think starting your business was that your proudest moment, or have you had moments in between where you're like, it was a profound moment where you're like, okay, well
I didn't
done,
feel
Ellis,
proud
pat
at the
on the
start.
back.
I did not feel proud at the start because I didn't, apart from my husband, everyone else around me told me I was nuts for trying. They were like, you've left stability behind, you've left regular income, like certain income behind. So at the start, I felt like I knew I hadn't made a mistake, but I also felt like, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah, it's
It wasn't
understandable.
until maybe 2020 was when it started, which weirdly was when the pandemic happened as well. So I don't know what happened there, but my business took a big spike upwards. And things were really, really successful. And I was like, oh my God, it's all coming together. That was like one of those moments where I really was like, I know what I'm doing now, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that's gave you the formula for the years that were ahead from that moment?
No way. No, there wasn't necessarily a pattern to that. I think a lot of businesses were either struggling during the pandemic or some were doing really well. And I was one of those that noticed a really good improvement. But then it carried on sort of like the next year, but then I fell pregnant with my son. And because I suffered with hyperemesis during my pregnancy, I got so ill and I couldn't keep up with that momentum anymore. So I spent 3 months like bedridden at the start of my pregnancy and just had to turn my back on everything. I was getting the bare minimum done, but honestly, throwing up between packing parcels, not cool. I've still got
No.
sanitizer on my desk it traumatized me. I was so sick. But yeah,
And I don't know
go
about
on.
yourself. For me, because that was such a private part of my life,
Yeah.
I chose not to share that, and particularly online. I felt like I'd literally abandoned the very front end of my business.
Oh yeah.
And I thought, I haven't even got an explanation to people because we're choosing not to share at the moment or discuss that. And even today, like I don't really share much aspect of that. And it has I've had to navigate how to, the elements of the business that I talk about. But when I think the very first of this began when I was pregnant, and that business, what you get so used to running and at that pace, and all of a sudden it just stops in its tracks, like quite literally overnight. And yeah, I felt like everything that I'd kind of built towards just felt like it was all going down the drain really quickly. And I know it's not the case whatsoever. But internally, it just felt like, when everything's out of control of it because I wasn't actively in the business.
It feels very real to you, though, at the time. It's like...
Absolutely.
It feels like everything's crumbling around you and that you're not going to get it back. That was a nice...
Yep.
Sorry, my dog's like...
What has been the hardest part to running your business?
Working around my son, honestly. The past 3
me
years
too.
have been... and I hate saying it. I hate being that honest, but I feel like by people like us being honest, it will help other people, to hopefully not feel the guilt, because I love my business so much and I want to keep it going for him. And I've got my mini ears on my wall at the minute because we've booked Disneyland, and it's like the first year that I've been in a place where I'm like, I want to take my baby boy to Disneyland, and it's like my goal now to like keep going for him. So when people have said to me in the past, you need to let your business go, Ellis, you need to just concentrate on being a mum right now, I'm like, why can't we do both? And I've noticed that in society, like the main caregiver, so it's not necessarily just mums. The majority might be mums, but I don't want to assume that there aren't full-time dads out there, because there are. But like, there's not really, and the same with you and your courses that you're trying to bring for people who can't access them during societal norm times. it's just really hard to live in a society that, you know, if you're a mum, that's kind of, you're expected to give your entire self just to that, and you can't be a person outside of that. There's a big sort of, what's the word? Stigma around it. So I don't know about you, but
it's again exactly the same. And for me, it's 100% been the hardest part, and it's just not having the answer for that. And for me, before I was a mum running my business, I pretty much had an answer for everything within my business.
yeah,
Or I could find a solution, and I knew I could make it work regardless, whether that was pivoting, whether it was a product, whether that product for whatever reason was no longer being seen and was dropping off, and I needed to then look at new products. I would literally spend the afternoon, and within a week we can get new products made here and new stuff designed. It's out there, and I never really saw the fluctuations with it because I saw I could balance that, and it was all relative to the hours that I could give. And then fast forward to when I became a mum, and when I was on maternity leave, I just dipped in and out as I could. But just the thought of going, you know, your 9 months is over and you're going to start like back, it just didn't happen at all in the way that I thought it was going to at all.
no. And like 9 months is actually like quite a long time, isn't it? Some people don't even get that 9 months, and I'm like,
absolutely.
It's such an emotional roller coaster because you miss that part of yourself, but you also don't want to leave your baby behind. You want to be able to just bring them with you.
I know, and for me, the 9 months had a very prominent connotation to it, because any other mum friends that I knew that were going back to work, it was very black and white for them. But for me, nothing changed whatsoever.
Yeah,
I just no longer had maternity allowance, so it was like, go figure.
Yeah,
Just
it's like, oh, I'm on my own now again, and I've had to neglect. But you can't work either, can you? If you're going to get the maternity allowance, you're not allowed to work, so you can't even keep things sort of, you know, like ticking over a little bit, so that when you're ready to officially come back, you can just be like, whoop, I'm back. So it is going from like 0 to 100 overnight.
I know, I think it's, for me, it's just something that and you don't know, because every individual circumstance is so different. And it is just back to really navigating what your business looks like. For me, I did a lot of reflection in those years and a lot of trial and error. And because I didn't know what my business was going to look like, and I didn't know what I wanted it to look like. I just knew that what I was doing before just couldn't fit into what is now. And like anything, things change. Before, I used to be able to, this sounds daft, I could put a really naff video and get absolutely thousands of views and make sales off the back of it. And all of a sudden, this abandoned business that I've just left, I can't copy that same formula because that no longer works. So I need to find new ways. I need to understand what the market is asking of me, what technology is asking of me. And I'm now trying to just reinvent myself as this new person. I'm now a mom, and now I'm trying to like reinvent my business again. And
no, I get that. And I've like, because we both had our babies like not during, but you know, around the pandemic time, it's been really hard to try and, you know, work out whether it was because you were absent or because the pandemic has changed the economy.
Yeah.
Whether it's changed people's buying habits, or whether it is the fact the algorithm hates you now because you weren't there.
Yeah.
So I'm like my videos used to do so much better than they ever do now, but trying to work out exactly how I did that before, it doesn't work anymore.
I know,
but you turn up because you're passionate and you love what you do,
and that's it. Yeah.
I
know. I think for me, which leads me on to one of my last few questions, is what would I go and tell my younger self? But for me, it's not necessarily my younger self. It's just, if I rewind about 4 years ago when I was pregnant, just to trust that your business will come back. It may look different and it's going to be okay, but just to chill out a little bit and just trust that it is, because I didn't believe those words myself, even though I was telling myself that at the time. So what would you say to yourself?
How far back are we talking?
I mean, we can talk any time scale. Just for me, that's like a particular moment.
I often think about my younger self, and I think I'd scoop her up and give her the biggest cuddle ever, because I don't think she felt it back then. I don't think she felt like she could do whatever she wanted to do. Like, especially
and
with
here you are.
and here I am, my little egg face this morning because I can't wear makeup because I'm infected. But yeah, I don't think she believed that she could be the vet or be the artist. And I wish I could be that person for her back then. I think that's like, I don't know about yourself, but I think the way we feel about our past and younger selves, we try and enforce that onto our own children and make sure they don't feel those things. Like, I don't ever want my son to feel like he can't do whatever he wants in life. Yeah. If he wants to be an artist, if he wants to be a ballerina, you know, if he wants to do anything, I'm like, we got this, we'll figure out a way.
Absolutely. She wanted to be a football teacher this week. And I'm like, you go for it, girl.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm always telling my son that, like, even if he's had a bad day, at the end of the day, I'll tell him, we had a bad day, but I love you. Like, I don't love you any less just because we've had, you know, a tough day. We did the tough day together. Like, Mummy doesn't love you any less. And I think that's really important for me anyway. If there's anything else that I do in motherhood, I just want him to feel loved and supported and like he's always enough. Because growing up, I don't think Ellis believed that she was enough.
And they're all the right things that you hope he can go on and they'll keep with him, which is... And we're all just absolutely trying our best at the end of the day. I mean, it's hard, this, isn't it?
Yeah, because there's no handbook. There's no handbook to, like, tell you how to be the perfect parent. But...
here we are, giving it a go.
Here we are, just I'll try my best.
So, dreaming really big, money's no object. What would your... I know, this is like big, bold question. What would your business look like? Where would you...
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all,
I gave my question.
First of all, I'd upgrade my fossil of an iPad because it keeps crashing on me. I've had it since 2018 and it's now getting to that point in its lifespan where it's like, and it keeps crashing, it keeps failing on me. The battery's not even a thing anymore. That's very, very small though, isn't it? I would really like do the book thing. I'd love to go to the Bologna Children's Book Fair. So, like, having the funds to, like, get on a plane and go to Bologna and, like, stay there and meet all the publishers and other illustrators and just have a proper, like, business adventure would be the dream. But in terms, honestly, I'm a very modest person. I'm not the sort of person that's going to be like, oh, I want this huge studio and I want to be manufacturing things for John Lewis. I just want to make, you know, enough to be happy and comfortable.
But that is equally as important.
John Lewis aren't going to want this. I mean, if they do, they can hit me up. But no, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not that kind of person that's like, I need to design something that's going to go viral. I need to design something that's, you know, going to be the next big thing, because I just want to do stuff that's going to make people happy. And the scale of that, as long as I can keep the roof over my head and enough food in my schnauzer's belly, then that's all right for me, because she's my money pit at the minute, my schnauzer.
I know, I feel that with Luna and the vet. I was listening to a podcast yesterday and I ended up just clicking off. I was browsing, but it was this guy just saying he wanted to create a multi-million-pound business. He hadn't got a business idea and he hadn't got anything that he was selling. He just knew he wanted to be a millionaire and yeah, that was it. But I was just like, that's just something that I've never wanted to grow to those extents. Like, I remember when my business was growing and I needed someone to help me out, and then the accountant was like, you need to get into like PAYE and everything, and I was like, no, that's not what I signed up in business. I literally just want to make a comfortable life and be completely flexible with my time. I just love that. That's my biggest, and I know when I don't necessarily have flexibility in terms of it now runs around my child, so that looks different, but everything is on what I choose to take on, what I choose to say yes and no to. You don't answer to anyone. And for all the ways that business is really hard sometimes, I feel like that's the part that keeps me the happiest, is being able to say, like, next Wednesday, actually, I do need to take the dog to the vets, but I haven't had to ask anyone's permission to do that, and I've just got to weave that into whatever my workday looks like.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I agree with that as well. I don't want anything big. I just want to carry on having the freedom, being able to be the one that takes my son to and from school, picks him up. Like, do you know, it sounds really sad, but like, even when there's been a family emergency, and like my husband kind of sucks. We're both fortunate enough to be like freelancers, but we can just drop everything and be like, right, I'm there. If my friend needs me, I'm like, right, I'm there.
Yeah.
My sister went to hospital once and I was like, right, I'm there. And it's just that bit is the most valuable to me, that I can just be like, it's okay, I can pick it up tomorrow, I can pick it up tonight, it's all right. But just being able to be like, no, I'm in control is the most.
Yeah,
as long as I can carry on doing that. I don't want the millions, just happiness isn't millions, is it?
That's the part that you've nailed on the head. For me, having a small business, I couldn't really tell you for sure what I'm doing next week or what's coming up, because, you know, we can just sit here today and create what it is that we want to do. But that uncertainty doesn't scare me.
No.
Because just having that ownership over your own schedule and knowing that it, like, the discipline comes from yourself, and I just think it's that uncertainty hasn't necessarily scared me. I think just the element is how I'm going to do that when it comes to childcare. That, if I'm being honest, that's where it comes down to.
Yeah, it's like the logistics of it. It's like, how am I going to squeeze that in today or next? And also, like, when you have a child, you can plan as much as you like, but they're probably going to get sick.
Yeah, let's be honest. We're already on third bug of the year.
I'll record a podcast next Thursday. Oh no, he's off sick. And then you feel like you've let people down because you're like, I was going to do it on Thursday. Yeah. I was going to be there. Promise.
And I think that's the part that I felt the real, one of the hardest parts, and the disconnect I felt to the audience or the people that I'd spent years just really enjoying back and forth with them and creating content. And I'd show up when I showed up, and then all of a sudden I just felt like I was just flopping out of everything and having to backtrack, and that's just not part of my personality. And I think that's what I find really hard. It's like, I'm very disciplined and very reliable, and all of a sudden I'm like no longer reliable, and that's through no fault of typically my own. It's just I've got commitments which are now more important.
Yeah, no, I get that entirely.
I realise as well, I've kept you talking for 53 minutes, so I do apologise.
Oh, I'm here for it. I'm looking at what a mess my hair is.
So I will let you go. I'm sure have you got anything else planned today?
I'm going to be video editing today. I've got to do a bit more filming for my vlog, and then I'll be video editing and trying to probably get that up tonight if everything goes to plan. Exciting. What are you doing?
I've got to go and check back in my emails, actually. So I've closed all the tabs on everything, so I got no distractions. But I've got a few upcoming things. You know, when you've just got the initial emails, so you're kind of going back and forward. So it's not anything concrete that's planned in, but I do need to make sure that they are. I've just got to reply to them. Usually on Fridays, I keep it pretty flexible. I don't know what your Fridays are usually like, so I try and work my solid Monday to Thursday, and then Friday I leave for things that I can slot in a little bit. It's like my bonus working day, I guess.
Yeah, the day before the weekend, just tie up some loose ends.
And I try not to really work the weekends anymore, just because I'm spending that quality time with my daughter. So I really try and get everything at least written down in my calendar, ready for calendar, my diary for Monday, and on my calendar here, just so I can take some of the tasks off my mind and kind of just know, right, I'm going to tackle them on Monday and come back to them. But yeah, that's not a lot on really at the minute, other than stuff that I've got to do. But again, nothing exciting to show anyone, unless they want 3 hours of me studying, which
ASMR studying, ASMR
yeah,
study
that's true.
channel. You could have like a channel where you turn the pages really slowly and like do some tapping,
and then realise I've spent 3 hours of filming the idea of me studying as opposed to actually studying.
Yeah,
that's like a typical creative way of
the angle right.
Yeah, honestly, that is the typical creative part of me.
Yeah, this setup right now is killing me because I'm so red pigmented because I'm just so pale. And I'm like, so I don't know if this is too much for your podcast, but you asked for the context of me looking like a sperm. It's because I can't wear makeup at the minute. So my friend told me I look like a sperm.
Oh, that's charming.
Yeah. So
I was delighted to see the image.
Keep it in your podcast or remove it. I do not mind, but I am a sperm.
I love that. And is it getting better?
I don't know. I'm going to say, for context, I had conjunctivitis, and when did I have it, Han? It was November, and I've got some damage left over in my eye, so I'm on steroid eye drops, and I'm just trying to embrace the natural face, even though it's, yeah.
You're looking wonderful. Don't worry about it. Do not worry.
Looking like a little pink egg, very, very red pigmented sperm. Yeah, that's why he called me a sperm.
So, getting back onto your Fox keychains and all the wonderful things that you create, where can people find Ellis on socials? What's your web link? Where's your products? Give me all the links. Showcase it.
Thank you very much. Didn't realise we were getting a little bit. It's a bit paranoid. So my website is. Are you going to put it on the screen, or are you? How do I do it?
We'll find a way. We'll put. You tell me where they are, and I will include all the links.
So my main website is elliswoolley.co.uk. My Etsy shop is Ellis Woolley Illustration. I'm on YouTube at Ellis Woolley Illustration. Are we going to talk about Instagram? We don't talk about Bruno. Instagram, but it's EllisJade _. Patreon, EllisJade _. I'm on Blue Sky and TikTok, but I couldn't tell you my usernames. I've never even
heard of Blue Sky.
But we need to talk about Blue Sky. I think everyone's sort of making a little bit of a jump from, like people have gone to Threads from Twitter.
Okay.
Blue Sky is just another one that people are trying because Instagram is...
I know, and you don't know whether to be an early adopter or whether to be like, hang on, I'm going to hang fire and see what people are doing. Honestly, there's always something, isn't it?
Me and Instagram have been out of love for quite some time, and I'm just like, I can't.
There was an app. What was it called? I don't know what it is. I think it was called it's mainly used in America, and I'm going to have to Google it whilst we're on here to see if I've got the name. So I want to say,
do you remember Tara as well? There was Tara.
Yeah.
People tried that, and then it seemed to fizzle out.
It's like, do I take the time to even create an account? I have no idea. Yeah. So I saw, I don't know if you've heard of it. It's mainly in America. It's called Whatnot, and it's live video shopping. And I literally went on, and when you're just like, oh my God. It's just like a whole new like another realm. Obviously, a lot of people are going into live shopping, and because you can now include like Shopify stores and you've got links to that, and it's the route to doing it is a lot easier. And I think this has come from the success from TikTok live and shopping. It's like copying that model, but honestly, I just think it's something else.
It's funny you should say that, because I don't know what it is about that style of content, but last night I went on TikTok just to check on how my own video had done. But the first thing I saw was this live of this guy in his sweet shop, and he was just packing orders. And he was going, come on, get your orders in, get your orders in. He had a big metal bowl, and all the sweets were behind him. And there was something about watching him take the sweets off the shelf, put them in the bowl, measure them out, weigh them out, put them in a bag. And then he was like, right, Katie, your order's done. And I just sat there for longer than I care to admit. And I was just like, it's scary. It's like this weird, like,
but I almost sit in like a bewilderment that this is like really successful, like a way of selling right now. And I'm really not, I'm not there. I mean, I don't really have the product to necessarily to do that. Or I don't know if that's me making an excuse, who knows. But I was like, I don't know. I can't even think how I could.
Are you there?
There we are. I'm back. I'm back.
I'm like, hello.
No, I'm back. I was going to jump onto webcam. No, my camera's going to have a bit of a hard time because I've plugged it into the laptop, but I haven't used what do they call it? It's like a bypass battery, and I need to get one of those.
You don't ask me. You know that me and technology are just not like, we're not friends. We're not friends.
You know when you want to do something a particular way, and then you Google like what's actually involved, and I was like, oh, I don't want to actually commit to those expenses.
Well, I'm looking at your microphone that you have, and I'm like, I should get one of those, but I don't know how to use one, and I'm going to have to learn. And I'm like, but is it an extra like thing to fiddle with my content?
It is, but I think it's been one of the best things that I've introduced, because I used to use is it a Yeti?
Yes.
I want to say Yeti. So I had like an old format version. Yeah, so I used to have one of those, but for some reason it used to pick up, it didn't seem to really work great. I don't know what I was really doing. So I looked into these, and I barely ever charge them. They're really good. They seem to hold a lot of battery. I've got them. Here's my little box. They come with two. And then they come with a little adjust. So you can put these into the bottom of your phone if you just want to record from your phone. I can't show you the receiver because it's on there. So the receiver goes either into your phone or into your camera. And then it's just connected to here. But
oh my goodness,
the amount of times that I've hit record and not actually turn them on is unreal.
That's what I'm like. I'm just so forgetful and clumsy that I'd be like, oh, I forgot to actually.
Yeah, like I'm wearing it sometimes, and I'm like, oh, I haven't actually plugged it in or told it to work, which
I haven't done it properly.
You're trying to think of everything else and what the camera's on, and is this ready, and is this ready, and then I'm like, there's always some element I forget.
And then you're like, I'm a business owner.
Yeah.
I own a small business.
I create content. Rule number 1, I've not switched any of my equipment on or charged my camera. That's a good one. Or charging my iPad.
Yeah, well, it's funny. You should say that. I've already charged mine up. Are you proud?
I am.
I'm good to go for my vlogging endeavours this afternoon.
Well, I shall leave you to it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Time. No, thank you for taking the time out of your day. I do really appreciate it.
I've enjoyed it. We should do it again.
Thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you have enjoyed it, and hopefully we will be creating more content like this in the future. And if you haven't already done so, you can listen back to some of the previous episodes where I talk about the similar questions with myself, with my business, and also just really honest day-to-day things of running a small business. I will leave this video here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episodes. Goodbye, guys.